Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from PettyRevenge. Story 1 is really long, so there will only be one story in this episode. And story 1 is by Bluest of Falcons. Neighbor Karen gets evicted. So I'd shared parts of this previously, but there were updates I never got to finish. It's not a short one, but it's very satisfying. I shared a duplex with my then girlfriend and her son, who was 7. To fully understand all this, I have to lay out the geography. This is a single house duplex with both doors in the middle with a shared small front porch. The house was built on the side of a hill. Our half was on the uphill side. So underneath the other unit are both garages side by side. The sidewalk comes up from the garages in front of the other unit directly onto the shared front porch. There's also a back porch, but it has a divider, so we share a moderate amount of privacy. We got a new neighbor one day, but didn't meet her until a couple weeks after she'd moved in. We'll call her Karen. She's mid to late 50s, skinny, and has cats. Lots of cats. We can see them in the windows. Our meeting went as such. One day, we're out washing our car in the front yard, me, the girlfriend, and her kid. The hose wouldn't reach the driveway. I also have a pair of motorcycles that I'm washing too. They will be important later. We're having a fun afternoon in the sun, playing with the hose, you know the scene. All kinds of cute and happy. This is when our new neighbor comes home. Karen drives along the driveway, parks in the garage, and walks up the sidewalk where we are. We politely introduce ourselves, and even joke that if she pulls her car up here, we'd wash it too. She all but ignores us and walks straight to her door. We shrug it off, but then she returns and goes straight vapor lock, setting the mood for the rest of the year. She starts nagging in an angry, almost screaming tone that she doesn't want us on her half of the yard. We can't be on her half, which included the sidewalk since it went through her half of the front yard. We needed to get off her side of the yard. Since the sidewalk was on her half, it was hers, and we couldn't use it. We would have to go around the back to get to our door. That's not happening. And she also wants us to stop using the garage door opener because she doesn't like the noise it makes when we do. That's obviously not happening. She's pissing off my girlfriend and scaring her kid. I have to calm them both down and get them inside while Karen is still yelling with a jabbing finger. Now, I'm an easygoing guy. I can let it roll off, but the girlfriend and kid didn't deserve that. I got them both to calm down. He needed ice cream and she needed a beer and smoke. And Karen needed to be taught a lesson. I go to put the cars and bikes away. It's during this that I can hear Karen through the garage ceiling on the phone with what I can only assume is our landlord, complaining about how rude and insufferable we are. We scare her cats. Really? And we keep running the garage door and it bothers her. She doesn't like it. We just have to go. The light bulb goes off. Both of my bikes are carbureted, and for the life of me, I can't remember the last time I had them adjusted. Since car washing was cut short, maybe I can do that instead. I pull mine and the girlfriend's car out of the garage. I'm going to need the space. Then I park the bikes side by side, exhaust pipes facing into the garage. I break out the tools and start with the little one. She's a 2001 V-Star 1100 Classic. I named her Molly. Vance and Hines pipes, but they're still pretty loud. I crank Molly up and wail on that throttle while I fine-tune the throttle body, just ripping it as loud as she can, filling the garage with all of that noise. Keep that up for a few minutes, then let her rest a minute. When I finally put Molly to bed, I can finally hear Karen stomping on the floor and yelling at me. I yell back, "Okay, Karen, just one more to go, only be a few minutes." Then I turn my attention to Black Betty. She's the '08 Vulcan Mean Streak Limited Edition. She's an 1800. She has pipes too, but the baffles may or may not have been drilled out. Before I can crank it up, I hear her calling what I assumed is a landlord, yelling that she doesn't care about a lease, she just wants us kicked out. She just won't stand for it. I didn't catch the rest of it as Betty was clearing her throat. I gave up the subterfuge of actually working on it and held the throttle open for a minute, then rest, then throttle, then rest. Kept that up until my own ears started ringing. Then put the vehicles away. She was still stomping on the floor and talking on the phone. I assume this was someone other than the landlord because she's retelling the same story again. Also, did I mention that we're friends with the landlord? Yeah, so once I'm back inside, the girlfriend is on the phone with him. We tell our side. He laughs at my prank with the bike, then asks me not to do it anymore. We finish off the evening with some TV while Karen is still screaming. Her voice is wavering as though she might be angry crying. In the coming months, it only got worse. But in that moment, the most committed of meth heads could not match me for the endorphin rush I got from hearing her rant and squeal. A few days later, I'm out on my way to work. I leave at about 6 to make it in time for breakfast at the desk before I log in at 7. I go around to the garage and Karen has left her car outside her garage and positioned it so I can't get my car out. I knock on her door and of course she doesn't answer. Bang on it a few more times. Nothing. I even yell at the door, "Hey, Karen, you're blocking my car. I need to get to work." This is clearly her petty revenge for the bikes, I'm sure. Good shot, Karen. Good one. Fortunately, it's a nice day, so I can just take one of them to work. The bike can fit around her car. But thanks to her, I wasn't going to have time to enjoy my breakfast once I got there. That evening, I came home and her car was still there. So instead of putting it back in the garage, I leave the bike parked behind her car, just at the edge of the street. Now I know what you're thinking. But OP, what if she backs into it? And I was kind of hoping that's where it would go. See, I've got great insurance and an even better lawyer. But no. This is how petty she is. She calls the cops. Come knock on our door? Push the bike over? Go through the front yard? No. Calls the cops. The nice policeman informs me that I'm blocking her car from exiting. Yeah, that was kind of the point. I inform him that she started it. I felt like a kid saying that, and honestly, we would have called the police on her for this crap this morning, but it seemed juvenile and a waste of their time. Also, I had to get to work. Cop's response, "Yes, but that's why we're here." That's just sad. Lets me know our species is doomed. Anyway, once I explain the whole thing, Mr. Policeman knocks on her door, addresses himself, and gets her to come outside. We explain the whole mess. Cop asks, "Is this true?" She admits it, but can't produce a reason for it. Cop scolds us both for being childish and to stop blocking the driveway. Says he doesn't want to have to come back to our residence again. Ha! Yeah, okay. That weekend, we go over to the neighbors for a few drinks. No, not that one. She doesn't like us. The next duplex over. Their porch is about 30 feet or so from the original scene of the crime. Just a handful of us grilling out and drinking beers. Oh, and among the guests this evening is the landlord himself. Did I mention we're in good with him? So anyway, sure enough, the nice policeman comes by. It's not the same officer this time, but the po-po nonetheless. He comes to the deck, flashlight in hand, says he got a noise complaint call. Clearly it was her. But what is rib-bustingly hilarious is that the officer said the noise complaint was placed by, wait for it, the landlord of the house. Yeah, no crap. Anyway, landlord steps forward and says, "Funny, I don't remember calling to complain about myself." Once again, we explain everything to the officer. He chuckles, asks us to keep it down, and leaves. After that, Mr. Landlord goes over to her unit. Of course, she doesn't answer the door, but he speaks loud enough for her to hear, letting her know that what she did wasn't cool. After that, we tried to avoid one another. There would be minor crap like UPS packages dropped off for her. We find it on our side and move it over. Later on, we'll hear through the door, "Keep your hands off my stuff!" or other headaches that makes us wish her cats would turn on her. A few weeks later, I'd gotten a promotion at work, so we threw a party. Sure enough, the cops were called again. This one was not placed by the landlord, but he was still there. He yells over at her door, "Hey, Karen, this is getting old." This next instance I can't quite take credit for, but Karen has built this obnoxious awning to cover her side of the porch out back. She never uses the porch, so why bother? However, I clearly remember a stipulation in our lease that says we are not allowed to modify the exterior of the units at all. Maybe hers is different? Maybe I should call the landlord and find out? What's that? No? She doesn't get to make modifications either. Oh, well, she did. So he makes her remove it. Again, because we're in good with him, he shares a tale with us how she complained, then begged, then relented. It was ear candy. Speaking of candy, come Halloween, I decorated the yard. I had heard from multiple neighbors of ours that the children were frightened of my front yard come Halloween. By this point, I should have guessed, though, that the lines were being drawn with Karen, figuratively and literally. I had to move some of my decorations, and that included the 15-foot ghost on the roof of the unit. I had to move it all the way over to my side. So, come Halloween night, we took the girlfriend's son out trick-or-treating, and literally every kid we saw, we told them to go by her place. She had the good candy, and lots of it. But she's old and hard of hearing, so you'll have to bang on the door pretty hard. No, she won't mind. She's a sweet lady. Now, I realize this was also mean to the kids who went to her door, but they were each a worthy sacrifice on the altar of petty revenge. Finale season. It's been about 10 plus months now. The cops hadn't had to come back out, and no one had to be cussed out in a while. One evening, we hear a splatter coming from the kitchen. Go in and find the pipe has busted under the sink and spraying. I quickly go to the main and close it. But because this is a duplex, I've cut off water to her side as well. She's not home yet. He comes and addresses the issue, small part to fix it. Needs to run to Home Depot, be right back. Meanwhile, I type up a note for Karen's door. I let her know we had a leak, had to shut off the water, but it should be fixed within an hour or two. Even thanked her for her understanding. While he's gone, we clean up the water. It was a lot. Then, before he returns, we hear the splatter again. At first I'm a little confused. I know I'd turned it off, but then it clicks. I go outside and there's Karen holding a pipe wrench. Hey, didn't you see my note? Yes, but my cats need water. Yes, but now you're flooding our unit. I need water! My girlfriend comes out and goes off shouting, calling her a B-word. Next door neighbors hear it and come out. It's a show now. I go get my wrench to close the main valve again, but she won't move out of the way. She's literally blocking me. I half expect her to take her wrench to my head, so I back off. Sure enough, landlord arrives at the craft show. Hey, we left her a note and she ignored it and started the water again. Wait. She what? Then he turns to light into her, cussing her out. I take advantage of her distraction to go kill the water again. But at this point, the damage is done. It's been running long enough that the carpets are soaked and the water is pouring out of the front door. Meanwhile, landlord is still yelling at her. All right, Karen, that's it. You're out of here. This is your 30 days. BS, I've already signed next year's lease. But I haven't. It's worthless. Tear it up. And I'm taking your deposit to pay for their damages. She melts. But I don't have anywhere else to go. She continues to argue and cry about her deposit. She'll need that for her next apartment. She can't afford to move. She threatens small claims court to get it back. The argument rages on while I take girlfriend and son to go get packed. We can't stay here tonight. We spent the next couple of nights in a hotel while the carpets were redone. He bought the beer and ribs for the next barbecue. Few more weeks go by without so much as a peep from her. One day we come home, and she's just gone. Porch, garage, and apartment are all cleaned out. I'm almost disappointed she didn't say goodbye. Nightmare neighbors. You know, I have to admit, when I read this story, I felt a little bit like you were a jerk yourself. Because some people are just loud neighbors. They're naturally loud. And it can be a really awful thing for somebody who likes a really quiet, peaceful home. There's nothing you can do about the garage door waking her up or bothering her. She lives over the garage. She's going to hear it when it's opening and closing. However, there was no reason for her to not have ever met you before and then to just go off on you. That's your first interaction. That's on her. She is in the wrong for doing that. But I gotta wonder, like, even if you're not having music at somebody's house, if you're at somebody else's house and you're having a get-together and a party, like 30 feet away, even if you don't have music playing, some people, when they're drinking or drunk, get really loud, and it can be really obnoxious to deal with. So I definitely get the vibe that both sides here are obnoxious neighbors. She is a nasty woman that should work on the way she approaches people and try diplomacy first. It sounds to me like you guys are quite loud. You were deliberately so a couple times because she ticked you off. Was it deserved? Maybe. But I am so glad that I don't have a lot of noisy neighbors lately. We had some move in a couple years ago that is just the quietest, nicest pair. It's a husband and wife, no children. I like peace and quiet. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a quiet day.